Hello and welcome to Example of Play, the home for strategy and tactics gaming. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that button now. For today's video, I was checking out the Steam Next Fest, which has demos of all sorts of upcoming games, and while browsing through the strategy games, there were several that caught my eye. I figured I'd share them with you here. So here are 5 upcoming strategy games that you can try out now in the Steam Next Fest. The first game we'll look at is Airborne Empire. This game bills itself as an open world RPG city builder, and the twist is that the city you are building is floating through the sky. As you can see, the graphics are this really charming, kind of whimsical style where your big floating city, it's defying physics. It's just got some big fans and turbines on it that are helping it to just somehow magically stay in the sky. Your characters are these kind of bird people. And yeah, it's a open world city builder. So your city can just go wherever you want. It needs resources and you can gather those as you travel. And then the RPG part is, yeah, you're recruiting people to join your city. You're helping out cities on the ground. You're fighting sky pirates, building towers and defenses. And there's a lot going on. But as you go, you keep expanding your city. It gets bigger and bigger. You research new things and you expand your population, and there's all these resources you need to constantly be gathering. And so to me, it almost feels like an inverse of Frostpunk, which was a very static, linear city builder where you were very constrained and you had to keep meeting these benchmarks just to stay alive, and it felt very grim, which worked for that game. But this is like almost the opposite in every way. It's very bright and colorful. It's not grim at all, even though you're fighting some sky pirates and stuff. It's kind of fun, and your city can move. So at any time you're just traveling around, you might hang out in a certain area for a little bit to gather resources or help a local city or people. And then you're off to some new adventure as far as the eye can see. You're traveling around the map. And so this game is kind of exciting to me because it's just, you get the city building stuff, but you get the freedom of moving around at the same time. One cool thing is that as your city builds, you have to balance it out. You can't build a bunch of heavy stuff on one side or your city will start to tilt, and you have to keep building new propellers to keep the propulsion going as it gets heavier. And so there is some balancing and kind of management of the shape and size of your city to keep it on track. But this is a cool game that I look forward to seeing what the full campaign looks like. Next, we'll look at Heart of the Machine. Now, this retains the open world RPG strategy kind of feeling, but is totally different in terms of tone. This game is from the developers of the AI War series, so AI War 1 and 2, which were these space grand strategy games where you played a human faction trying to survive against an AI that had basically taken over the universe. Here, it's kind of flips the script. You are the AI. You're the first sentient AI that's awakened in the middle of a sci-fi human city, and it's up to you what happens from there. Basically, the cool part is that you can be kind of a good or an evil AI or a mix. You can spread covertly, you can spread overtly, you can go around killing people, setting factions against each other, or you can be good. You can build homeless shelters and help the humans. You can be kind of a benevolent AI saving humanity from itself, or a tyrannical one, or mix all those things together to trick the humans. You have to be stealthy and sneaky, but also deal with different threats as you go. If you play the AI War games, you know these developers build these systems that seem fairly simple, but are really, really deep. And this game is no exception to that, because just exploring the different options, there's so much here of how you want to plan your strategy out. It's turn-based, so you have plenty of time to think about things, and the city you're playing in is huge. And there are all these little side stories you find, all these optional things that pop up of you could do this or that, and the effects might not be immediately obvious. Just for example, you can right off the bat, you can choose to sneak out of the factory or the research lab where you become sentient, or you can kill all the humans and just immediately establish dominance. And then you go out into the city. Either way, you have to create kind of your hideout and then start gathering resources, but doing this sneakily without drawing too much suspicion to yourself or distracting the humans. It's really a fascinating concept, and I'm interested to see how this game turns out because it is such a great idea and there are so many potential options. And I know this developer can do so many cool things based on their previous games. So, Heart of the Machine, looking forward to seeing more of this one. Next up is Kingdom, Dungeon, and Hero, which, if you just look at the splash art and the title, seems kind of generic and a little uninspired. But once I got to poking around looking at the screenshots and the description of what you can do in this game, I realized this is a really fascinating title that we don't normally see this kind of thing. It is like a war game, but set in a medieval fantasy setting, and also has a lot of kind of kingdom management, a lot of different genres blended together into this strategy game. And so once I tried out the demo, I realized this is a really neat one. It lets you do a lot of things. So it's like a war game in that you have these different units, they have stats, you're moving around on a hex grid and fighting against other factions to control this map. It has research of like different kinds of spells. You're building buildings in your cities. It's got a fairly complex economic thing going on with different resources you're collecting. There's trade with other empires, diplomacy. In addition to your armies, you also have heroes who you can send into dungeons, which has its own little mini game where you're moving through the dungeon map and you're fighting battles, and your heroes have different abilities and equipment. And all this stuff is like layered on top of each other to make a pretty compelling experience. I was just playing around with the demo. This felt like a game I might need to make a strategy guide for because there's a lot going on here. And I'm excited to see how it turns out. The demo includes a small scenario to kind of get you started. And then it has the main story scenario, it looks like, which has 50 different factions on this huge map. And I don't know how much story there is to it, but it's got a lot of established lore. Each of the factions has like a little backstory description of it. The map is very detailed. It feels like a very realized place with like place names and different shapes to the factions. They're not all just slapped on there. Like they all have some history to them. So I'm interested to see how this one turns out. It comes out real soon in July. And so look for more on this one because there's not a lot of fantasy war games. And this one does that plus a lot more. So look for more because this one might be a little diamond in the rough here. The fourth game on my list is something different. My daughter always kind of gives me a hard time saying that all the games I play are violent, even though they not all are, but a lot of them are. So I was trying to look for something that was a little more peaceful, a little more positive energy to it. And I came across Preserve, which is kind of more of a puzzle than strategy game, but does still have a lot of thought to it. And it does have hexes, but instead of fighting over them, you are converting rock and dirt and barren terrain into sort of these thriving ecosystems where you're dropping some rain down and then you're converting the different territories into different kinds of biomes and then adding wildlife to it that's appropriate for the different ones. And the way you're doing all this is with cards that you get. So you kind of have to take the cards you're dealt and then use them to convert the world in the most points efficient way, because if you play it correctly, you get more points combining different kinds of wildlife into different environments, and then you can expand and build more and more things. And so you're trying to go for like a high score to unlock more stuff. There's also a puzzle mode where you have a static set of starting cards and you're trying to hit a certain score. So if you want to kind of really test your tactical abilities in generating habitats and biomes, that is there. And I tried one of those and those were challenging, doing the little puzzle maps. But if you just want a relaxing strategy game where you're creating these beautiful little environments, this one might be a good choice. Also, if you got kids, a way to kind of get them thinking strategically and tactically in terms of using the options you have available to do things as efficiently as possible. So just a little something different for you. Finally, we'll end on something a bit more traditional from Slytherin. This is Scrable, Battle of Britain. This is a tactical, turn-based dogfight simulator. Basically, you have sort of direct control of these aircraft where you're plotting out their movement through the air, whether they're going to be shooting or not. And then you hit everything's paused. You set your orders, you hit go, and then it plays for a few seconds, and you see what happens, and then it pauses again, and you can change your orders. The thing about this game that drew my eye to it is it's a very beautiful presentation. You got these airplanes moving through the air. You got these blue and red lines like on old historical battle maps and stuff, showing how they're going to move through the air. And then it combines all that with a fairly robust simulation of the physics of flying through the air. So we always learn about dogfights being these, it's not all like in the movies. You have to manage your speed and your altitude and limited ammunition. And it's really hard to actually get in behind someone who's trying to avoid you and shoot them down. And so here you're managing not just one, but many fighters and kind of this ballet in the air of aircraft all trying to maneuver around each other to get a shot off. The demo has a bunch of different missions, but they're all pretty small scale. But judging by the screenshots available, it looks like it'll get much larger scale with a lot of aircraft in the air eventually. And in the demo, you just play one-off missions, but in the full game, you'll be kind of the squadron commander and having to manage your pilots and their experience levels and their stamina and morale, and kind of manage that side of it in addition to the tactical battles. So this one is pretty cool. I've seen some games like this before that were kind of like this, but were always, I don't know, they didn't quite have what made it fun, where this has like the combination of presentation and gameplay and just has all the elements to make a pretty interesting and unique dogfight tactical simulator. And so I'm looking forward to trying out the full campaign in this one. All right, so those were 5 games that currently have demos available in the Steam Next Fest, different strategy games that are coming out soon. I think that was a pretty good variety of titles, a lot of cool stuff coming out in the future, and I hope you found something in there that you liked. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.